We are in Yakov, Gemara Shabbos 16b, and we're going to get into a situation here with Queen Shaltzion, or in who is Shaltzion? Just so we all know, she was the wife of Yanai HaMelech, King Yanai, who was a Hasmonean king. Yanai was, I forget what they call him in English. I should say in Greek, Alexandrius or something. I forget what they call him. Yanai was not a great king. Yanai was a wicked king, actually. He is the one who killed all the Chachamim, except for one which was hidden, namely Shimon ben Shattach, which is the brother of his wife Shaltzion.
Was he a bad Jewish king?
Yes, bad Jewish king.
Right.
He was a Hasmonean.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Hasmonean was always a Jewish king.
No, I know, but I was wondering if he's also a bad king in general, like ruling wise. Did he rule? Did he do a good job at ruling?
What did he do a good job in ruling? How the question I would have to ask you is, how do you judge if a king is good in ruling?
Civil disobedience.
Civil disobedience. There was no, as far as we know, there was no civil disobedience. As far as we know, he kept the order in the land. What the famous story about Yanai, which makes him the evil king, is this. You have to get into the real history of this. You had the breakup between the split, I should say, between the Hellenists and the Hasidim. That would be the forerunner to Pharisees versus Sadducees. Okay, and that would be the forerunner to the Karaites and the Rabbinic Jews, which would be the forerunner to the conservative Reform and Orthodox. Okay, it's all the same movement coming down. So which is really, the original was Korach to Moshe. Okay, there's a break. If I know people won't appreciate that historically, but that really, if you look philosophically at what they were arguing, there was always some sort of thing that they were arguing, namely that the oral tradition is not from God. Now, I said this many times, I'll say it just for one more time, probably many thousands of times in my life, I'll say it again and again and again. The unique break of the conservative reform with history was they also denied the written Torah coming from God. Until then, the Karaites, the Hellenists, the Sadducees, all the way up the line, including to Korach himself, never denied the written word. They always denied that they came from God, because it would be stupid to deny that. But what they did deny was the oral tradition. So, like I say, Reform broke from tradition of rebelliousness and went all the way to say that the Torah itself is not from God, that there are multiple authors and so on and so forth. So it was not a real big jump for them to say, and so also with the oral tradition. That was just a necessary part. If written tradition is written by man, so certainly the oral tradition is just an invention of man, and so on and so forth. But now Yanai was a sympathizer for the Sadducees, which meant the priestly class, they were the rich class. That's how history wants to paint them. Whether or not it's true, I don't know, but history wants to paint them that way. And so of the of the Hellenists, again, the rich class, and they were in charge of the temple, many of them. So, and Yanai liked what they had to say. He liked it. It's because, written tradition is from God, oral tradition is from rabbis. Rabbis rip in the neck. Rabbis make all these rules that we don't need, so leave me alone, okay? Pharisees, the Hasidim obviously held by oral tradition, that this is from God and therefore we have to follow it. Now this breakup, this split in the Jewish people really does make a lot for headaches, right? Because if I believe that the oral tradition is from the rabbis, now when the rabbis come up with a rule, I'll use my own brain. If I think the rule is a valid rule that applies to me, I'll follow it. But if I think I'm smarter than the average bear, for those who like Yogi Bear, if I think I'm smarter than the average Jew, so then I don't need that rule. If I don't need that rule, so it's good for you because you're weak-minded. You need those rules, but I don't need those rules. Okay, that's what happens when you start saying it's rabbinic versus Torahitic. Verses from God. Okay, that whole thing. So now Yanai, and the story about Yanai is that he tried to make peace between the two warring factions, namely the Hellenists and the Hasidim, and he had them come together for a feast. So the top Hellenist, if you will, they're probably going to call him Saduki in the. I'm not sure where Hellenists and Sadukim. Well, they split because really the same movement, just a different name as time goes on. So, but in the Gemara, they're going to call them Saduki more than Hellenist. Maybe they didn't have a word for Hellenist in Hebrew. I'm not sure that because Yavanim would have been Greek.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they. I'm not sure if they had a term for Hellenist. I know that in the history we split up Hellenist, Hellenist. And then Sadducee. But the Gemara is going to call him Saduki. Fine. So the Saduki said to the king, these rabbis, they don't like you. They want to take you down. He said, what are you talking about? He proves it to him. And he says to the king, you have to kill them all out. So he said, wait a second. If I kill the rabbis out, who's going to teach the Torah? So the Sadducee says, the Torah's right there. In that ark. It's in the ark. Anybody who wants to go to the Torah can read it themselves. They don't need the rabbis. Oh, Yanai liked the argument. Again, he was a Pharisee. He was a Sadducee. It would make sense. I like the argument. Hellenist, Sadducee, whatever you want to call it. I like the argument. It's good. It's right there. Kills all the people out. Except, again, Shimon ben Shetach was the only one that was not killed. And he would bring everything back. He was hidden away. But then Yanai does teshuvah in the end, as it were. And as he's dying, he says to his wife, Shel Tzion, how they say it, that's how they say it, called Shel Tzion. He says to his wife, honey, listen to the rabbis. Don't fight the rabbis. When the rabbis... that was his bit of teshuvah. Now, what was he really doing? You could argue one of two things historically. One, he was trying to, again, have a unified group. Let's make peace here. Or number two, he learned his lesson. But he really did teshuvah, didn't do his lesson. Didn't he? Okay, so that's really what we're getting into. That background is very important to understand the story that we're about to read. So we start. It says, again, you're on 16b1. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. For Rav Yehuda said, we're talking about Tumah, by the way. When something becomes Tameh from the Torah, so how do I have to get rid of this? We'll run through with the ArtScroll, but how do I get rid of it? Just on basic terms, I take the ashes from the red heifer, and I sprinkle on the third day, and then the seventh day, and then Tumas Mace, the Tumah that is derived from a dead body, is taken away from that. Okay, and then I can use it. So now what happens is, we have this concept of old Tumah. Okay, what is an old Tumah? Old Tumah is if Tameh metalware is rendered unusable by being broken and then refashioned, it is Tahor, is spiritually clean according to biblical law, right? What happened was I had a pot and it was Tameh. So I break the pot, it's no longer a usable pot, so the Tumah goes away because there's nothing there. Now I fix the pot, make it usable again, so it should take off the... Biblically, I got away with it. I didn't have to wait the 7 days. Okay, I got rid of it. Got rid of the tumah, I make a new pot. Great, done. Okay. However, by decree of Shimon ben Shetach, it reverts to his former tumah. He didn't like that. So the question is, and now we're going to get the story. So it says, "Da'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Ma'aseh v'Shal Tzion Amalka." There it was a story with the queen Shal Tzion. Again, she was a queen, Jewish queen of the house of the Hasmoneans, who reigned for 10 years after the death of her husband Yanai, otherwise known as Salome Alexandra. She was Shimon ben Shetak's sister. Okay, Shimon ben Shetak is her sister. Her brother. So what happens is, she made a wedding feast for her son. And all the utensils became contaminated with tumah. What happened was it became tameh from a dead body, and therefore required the week-long purification process, which consists of sprinkling on them the mechatat, the purification waters, on the 3rd and 7th days, plus Tevila in the mikvah, going to the mikvah on the 7th day. Perhaps someone died during the feast and all the utensils contracted tumah because they were under the same roof as the corpse. We learned that in our lunch and learn, right? Ohel. Yeah. If you have the ohel, if I'm the tent, in other words, I'm in this room, and well, not me, I can't be here in this room. Okay, somebody's in this room, and the vessels are all here. Somebody dies in the building. And all the doors are open. Just make it easy. All the doors are open. Everything is tameh. Tumas meis because of ohel. We call tent. Because the roof. The roof. You have a roof. So if you have a tree, by the way, that will create an ohel too. So anything like that is going to cause ohel. The tumah is trapped in. It goes all over the place. So here, imagine, you have to think about what's going on here. She has a catering event. She has hundreds of people coming to her son's wedding. Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov. And now she can't use utensils.
Because somebody died.
Because somebody died. A chutzpah on that person. They died. And now everything is tameh. What am I going to do? I have to do something. Help me. You know? Okay, what does she do? Shvatan. She broke them all. She broke all the vessels. The metal vessels. Unatanatan letzorah ritchan, and gave them to a smith. He resoldered them. She follows the Torah. The Torah said, who's her husband? Yanai. Yanai was holding by Sadducees. Okay? Torah. Leave me alone with the Rabbinics.
Yeah.
So I know, according to the Torah, she's a good girl. I'm not going to argue on being a good girl or not. She's not come down as a wicked person. She comes down as a good queen. But she said, the Torah only says, I have to make a hole in it. So look, I don't have time to wait the 7 days. Leave me alone. Let me I'll break everything. She starts drilling. You can imagine that.
Yeah.
Make a hole. And then, okay, now fix it up. According to the Torah, it's 100% good. Now I can cook. Baruch Hashem. My simcha is saved. I can go on with life. Okay? Va'asa mehen kelim chadashim. She made new vessels. So but the rabbis came in and they said, no, tzedekis doesn't work. Yachzuru l'tumatam yishana. They revert to their own old tumah. Sorry, you're koshering, even though the Torah says it's good. We're coming in and we're telling you it's not good. Now, if anybody's ever worked for a caterer, you know a kosher caterer, the kosher caterers hate the rabbis. Mamish hate the rabbis. They need us, but they hate us. Because what happens is we go in and they say, and they get something, and we say, you messed up, you opened the oven, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, okay, you have to fix the oven like this. And they say, but Rabbi, leave me alone. It's only rabbinics. Only rabbinics. That's how I get my money. It's only rabbinics, you know? So that, and they think that when we make them check the lettuce, even though that's deraisa, that they have to check the lettuce and make sure there's no bugs there, they still think they were nuts. That we outlawed, the OU basically outlawed broccoli, cauliflower, all these other wonderful things because of the bugs that you can't get to. And everybody says, rabbis, come on, what did they do before people had all this awareness of bugs? They ate them. It doesn't make it right, but okay. Okay. Nonetheless, they don't like rabbis. So here he explains it. The usual procedure for purifying the utensils. I said that, I'm sorry. Right, okay. Like I said, this is just getting what I said. The usual procedure of purifying the vessels, utensils, is a week-long purification procedure. In order to speed up the process, the queen broke the utensils by piercing them, rendering them unusable, and thereby she purified them instantly. She then had them all repaired. Certainly by biblical law, her method was effective because once an item becomes broken, its tumah departs forever and does not reappear when the article is repaired. That's biblical. So as the Gemara she said, no, as the Gemara will explain, the rabbis were averse to any evasion of the week-long purification procedure. They therefore declared that the expedient of breaking and repairing is ineffective, and the former tumah is reinstated. Presumably, Shimon ben Shattach was the leader of the rabbis, and therefore the writer attributed the decree to him. Now, by the way, my time with the Gemara ends off. What's the reason? Mishum geder mechatat nagu uba. They were interested in passing a decree as a safeguard for the mechatat procedure. And he says, if the expedient, number 9, if the expedient of breaking and repairing would be declared effective, it would gain widespread acceptance, since it would hasten the purification process by eliminating the necessity of the week-long procedure involving the mechatat, the water containing the ashes of the paraduma. The rabbis feared that consequently the institution of mechatat would fall into disuse. They therefore declared that the quick method of breaking and repairing is ineffective. This decree applies only to metalware because it's amenable to the expedient of breaking and repairing. It can be broken by piercing a hole in it, and then easily repaired by soldering. But as regards other types of wares, wooden or earthen vessels, it is unlikely that anyone would break or pierce them because they could not be easily repaired. Therefore, repairing those wares there was no need to decree reinstatement of the former tumah. So it's only with a metal vessel. But here you're seeing an amazing thing that the rabbis are doing. They're saying we have a halacha from the Torah, talking about making a geder, making a fence around the Torah. First statement of Pirkei Avos, right? Asusiyag the Torah, make a fence around the Torah. Here is the greatest concept of the fence. Because what happened was the rabbi said, if we allow you to follow the Torah and make a hole in the metal pan, so instantaneously it gets rid of the tumah, and now you're going to solder it, resolder it, and you have a new thing. So as a result, you're no longer going to do mechatat, follow the other part of the Torah. Remember, the Torah said, if it becomes impure, this is the purification process that has to take place. You found the quote unquote what your son-in-law would love to call a loophole.
Yeah.
You found a loophole. Boom! I make a hole, and that's it. The rabbi said, "No, we don't want you to use that loophole. Under extreme circumstances, you could. If it happened by mistake, you could do it. But to do it lechatchila in the first instance, what you're going to do is everybody's going to start realizing I can do that, and you're going to rid yourself of the need of mechatat, and you're going to lose out a commandment of the Torah. Torah said this is what you have to do, and you're, because of a quote-unquote loophole, getting your way out of it. So the rabbi said, no, if you're going to do that, l'chadchila in the first instance, we're going to make it so that it didn't do anything. The tumah is going to return, even though it really doesn't. We're making it like it does, and we're declaring it a non-kosher event. Period. Okay. You see this in many times when the Torah would allow something to happen, and we know. I'll give you an example. You have dishes. Okay. We have a rule of notin tanlev gam that after 24 whatever 8, some people say 12, some people 24. Let's go for the 24 hours. If I leave my vessel alone for 24 hours, my vessel that I cooked meat with, okay, that vessel, from the Torah's point of view, again, we don't rule like this, but from Torah's point of view, goes back to parv. Okay? So if I would have this frying pan. I just cooked up my steak. And I put it back in the cabinet. And I say, okay, I'm going to leave it there. And I have a piece of paper on it, just for argument's sake, saying when I used it, 24 hours later, I take it out again and I cooked my milk in it. Did I break any law according to the Torah? No. Would your wife let me back in the kitchen? Absolutely not. She would say, get out of my kitchen. You just ruined my kitchen. Okay? But that is what Torah would allow me to do. Again, the loophole. Wait 24 hours. We don't do that. Now, we even have a better thing. Let's say I would go into your house and I would take a pan, okay, from your thing, and I would cook whatever I cook, okay? And then you come to me and say, what did you do? That was my milk pan. You made meat. I said, don't worry about it, Mr. Ornstein. Don't worry. It's good. God's good. Everything's good. How can you say that? You made it. I said, because Stam Kalim ain't a Ben Yoman. That we have a rule that a regular keli, a regular vessel, is already 24 hours old. We rule that. Okay? So unless I know for sure that you used it within the 24 hours, it was already parv. So don't worry about it. It's good. Okay? That's what we would say. Now, what happens is, again, you can combine all these sheets all day long, but nonetheless, I'm breaking rabbinic law like crazy. Right? So that's why the rabbi is saying, if we allow you to follow the quote-unquote loopholes, everything else is going to fall apart. Because sooner or later, you're going to start doing things that are breaking the Torah. And that's really why they were saying, no, we're going to make it so that Tuma went back to normal. And that, again, this is Shimon ben Shattach. Her brother is making her miserable. And does she fight him? No. Because she understands. This is what it has to be. She thought she got a way around it. Her husband would have appreciated the heter.
So what
But she in the end didn't fight it.
That if a person starts taking advantage of the loopholes and just, we don't need the fence, we'll just, the sooner or later you're going to find a reason to make an excuse for something that's in the Torah.
Of course. Well, again, you're going to lose out from the Torah. Again, Mechatat is from the Torah. The water from this purification process is from the Torah. So you're going to lose that because...
And that's 7 days?
Yeah, that was 7 days. We don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the red heifer and so on and so forth. But that would have... His argument was that would be lost. So we don't want to... We're going... And so we throw a chumrah, or throw stringency into the system, and we create a tuma. We create it. So, like I said, but that is such a powerful statement that they're drawing in this Gemara, because it's showing the power of the rabbinate, that they could do this. And again, she the queen, doesn't say to her brother, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to you. No, she says, okay, I have to do what I have to do. You know. Okay. Now we go to page 17A2. 17A2. You're not there yet?
Yeah.
Okay, and we are at the part where it says, coming to a different argument now. Where is it? Yeah, so it says the Gemara cites a Braita. Okay, it says, Habot Shelagat, I'm giving you some head in here. The Habot Shelagat, when someone harvests grapes from the wine, for the wine press, Shammai Omer Huksha. Shammai says the grapes have become susceptible to Tuma. We're dealing with Tuma again. Why they become susceptible? So he explains. Foodstuffs are never susceptible to Tuma unless they are first conditioned by having once been wetted by one of the 7 specified liquids. The prerequisite for susceptibility to Tuma is known as a hechsher, literally conditioning. Grape wine is one of those specified liquids and can affect hechsher. And in other words, this conditioning, this ability for Tuma to transfer. Now again, if we have a liquid here. If it's dry, if dry touches dry, nothing happens. But if it's a liquid here, that's what allows what I have to call the transferring agent to happen. Okay, so, and grape juice is legally the same as grape wine. So very often during the process of harvesting grapes, some wine is squeezed out of them and wets that are out of service. Now you didn't want that, but it's just what happens. Now generally, hechsher is affected when the owner is pleased with the presence of the liquid. Thus, an unintentional wetting does not usually affect the hechsher. The juice that exudes from grapes during harvesting and goes to waste is not the type of liquid whose existence would please the owner, and are therefore not to affect hechsher. Nevertheless, Shammai rules that here, in the case of grapes, hechsher does take effect, and the grapes are therefore henceforth susceptible to tumah. Thus, if they are harvested with tameh utensils, they will actually contract tumah. If the grapes are to remain tahor, they must be harvested with tahor utensils. The reason for Shammai's stringency is discussed shortly in the Gemara. Even by means of the terms of this decree, the grapes become susceptible to tumah at the time of harvest only if they actually do become wet by their juice, albeit unwillingly. However, if they stay dry, they have not undergone hechsher. Fine. So you understand? If the grapes came out with wine, with grape juice, and they were put into a tameh vessel, they would become tameh. If there's no liquid, then they are not tameh. But even if they're in the tameh vessel, but Shammai says they should be put into a tahor. They should only be collected in tahor vessels, so that in case they do get wet, they won't become tameh. Okay. Now again, really, it's a stringency. It's a stringency from Shammai. Fine. So Hillel says lo hilchshar. They do not become susceptible to tumah. He said, and his answer again is, since the grapes became wetted unintentionally, and moreover, the owner is presumably upset over the occurrence because of the waste of grape juice, no hechsher is effective. So Hillel is not making you miserable. Hillel is saying we don't have to be machmir here, we don't have to be stringent. It's a simple halacha, leave me alone. Therefore, it's not necessary. So Amalo Hillel to Shammai. So now Hillel said to Shammai, okay, Shammai, I have a question for you. Why, in your opinion, must one harvest grapes with utensils that are in the state of tahara to prevent the grapes from becoming tameh? Yet one need not harvest olives in the state of tahara. What's this question? Olives is also when they get wet. So there's one of the ways to use a hechsher to be the transferring agent, and they also should become. You should also logically have to put it into a tahor vessel, right? That would only make sense. You're claiming that the grapes, because they exuded liquid unintentionally, they become the hechsher. So also olives, even though I don't want the olive oil to come out at that particular moment because I'm going to lose money, fine, it's not to what I want. Nonetheless, you don't say that I have to put that into a tahor vessel. You allow me to put that into a tameh vessel. What's the difference? You understand? It shouldn't be a difference. He explained that Shammai ruled that the grapes become susceptible to tumah when they are wetted by the juice, and consequently they have to be harvested with tahor vessels. Shammai specified grapes. His ruling does not apply to any other fruit, such as olives. Yet olive oil is also one of the second liquids that can affect the hechsher. Why then, in the case of olives, is requirement of tahor utensils not necessary? So what is his answer? Oh, Shammai decided, I'm going to shut this argument down within 5 seconds. Amar lo, Shammai answered, takniteni, if you continue to provoke me, in other words, because what was happening, he would give his reason. What does he say? I will go through it. Shammai gave us reason, and Hillel kept coming up with, no, it doesn't make sense because of blah, blah, blah. He answered every single one of his answers. He refuted them. So he says, if you continue to provoke me, goes Rani Tuma Al Masika. I'll decree Tuma even in respect to the harvest of olives. I'll make you miserable. You want me? I was nice. I was being a generous guy. I was saying only grapes. You want me to go olives? You want me to do everything else because it's a liquid there? And you want me to follow logic? You know what? I'll be glazer everything. I'll make everything require to put it into a tahor vessel. Oh, won't people be happy now because you forced me into this situation? So here he says. He says like this, I shall decree that the olives also become susceptible to tumah when wetted by their oil during harvesting. What happened was Shammai certainly had many reasons for decreeing only in respect to grapes, not olives. He proposed his reasons to Hillel, but Hillel countered every one of them and claimed that there was no valid reason to differentiate between grapes and olives, whereupon Shammai proclaimed that if Hillel will continue to refute each and every one of its distinctions, he would be forced to equate both grapes and olives and decree tumah on both of them. Shammai meant to say that if even, and this is the important part, this is what he's saying. Boys, this is what he's saying. Shammai meant to say that if even so great a scholar as Hillel failed to recognize the difference between grapes and olives, he would be compelled to decree tumah on both of them so as to avoid confusion.
So offense.
Not only offense, but this is the ultimate offense. Again, if you the person who's learned can't see the distinction I'm drawing, then certainly nobody else will. So then I have to make a decree, because nobody's going to get it. And they're going to make fun of the original decree and not follow the original decree. And so if you need, I will make it, I'll extend the fence to do everything. No problem. And this is something else that we always have to remember. We have a rule in Torah that we don't, lo plug, we don't make a distinction. Even though you could make a distinction between certain cases, the rabbi says better not to make a distinction. Make the simple rule. People follow simple rules. If I make too many exceptions to the rule, then you're not going to get it. You won't follow the rule.
Like in something is, you're talking about something that's subtle, not really obvious. Everybody can see it. Something about a subtle distinction. Let's just make it the same. It's just too complicated. It's just
too much. You're going to start arguing on it, and then you're not going to hear it. Why can't I have fish and meat in the same? Fish and meat is something about chicken and milk.
Yeah.
It says, you shouldn't cook a kid in his mother's milk. Okay, fine. Put all that side again. Not eating, not drinking, fine. Okay, now you can't get benefit. Well, what's the difference? One is gedi b'chalivimo, the chicken, the meat, the cow is nursing from the mother. Do chickens nurse?
Nope.
No, there's no chickens nursing. Yet the rabbi said, we're going to treat chicken just like meat. And we're going to say that you have to separate it by hours, you can't eat it with milk, blah, blah, blah. And all these things. Unlike fish, which I don't have to separate. It's parv, totally parv. Now chicken is parv, according to the Torah. Again, we don't rule that. We don't rule to you people on the listening. We don't rule that way. We rule this meat. But according to the Torah, it's parv. Okay. So, but what happened? The rabbi said, looking at this thing, people are not going to see the distinction between the meat and chicken. Meat is meat. Give me the chicken meat. We even call it meat. Meat of the chicken.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't say that. I don't know if we call it meat of the fish. I don't think we call it meat of the fish. We say give me the fish.
You can.
Most people don't say it though.
Yeah.
Most people say pass the fish. But you may say pass the meat and you mean chicken. So
the meat of the fruit too.
Right. But I'm just saying that that was like, again, a low plug. We don't make a distinction. So you have these times where people are not readily making that distinction. Now, Shammai was saying even more. I'm willing to make it just a one thing versus the other. I'm willing to go grapes versus olive oil. But if you Hillel, not Beis Hillel, by the way, you Hillel, there's Shammai talking to Hillel. They're two gigantic people here. And he's saying, Hillel, if you don't see the distinction, my God, then clearly nobody else is going to either. And you're going to ruin the whole system here. Okay, so what happened? Natsu Cherav Beit Midrash. They stuck a sword in the house of study. What happened there? Well, he's making a war. He said it was their custom when a vote was taken to stick a sword in the house of study as a symbol that no one is allowed to leave. Otherwise known as lock the doors. We're going to have a vote. Nobody walks out. Can you imagine doing that to Congress? Nobody leaves until we get this hammered out. You want to shut the government down? We're shutting you down. You're not getting out of the government. You're not leaving Congress. You're gonna eat and drink here. Okay, that's it. So he says, stick a sword in the. They stuck a sword in the study. Amrun, they said, Hanichnas, whoever wants to enter may enter. Vayotse al yetse, but whoever wants to leave may not leave. No bathroom breaks. It's over. Okay. Va'otu hayom, and on that day, Hillel kafuf. Hillel was submissive. Yoshev lifnei Shammai, and he sat before Shammai, ke'echad min hatalmidim, like one of his disciples. V'haya kash Israel, and that day was as grievous was as hard to Israel, kiyom shenasa bo egel, as of the day on which the golden calf was made. It wasn't a good day. And why was that the case? He explains because the Nasi, the president, Hillel, was humiliated. A whole company grouped around Shammai, and they triumphed over Hillel and caused his humiliation. Had they not so humiliated Hillel, his opinion might have carried more weight, and the outcome of the vote might have been different. But in fact, they did not pay serious enough attention to his words. This resembles very much the incident of the golden calf, where Aaron and Chor's protests were not heeded. Had the children of Israel paid attention to them, perhaps the calf would have never been made. That's how the Chasim Sofer reads that Gemara. Okay. On that day, Gazor, Shammai Hillel, on that day, both Shammai and Hillel passed a decree on this matter. V'lo kible minehu, but the populace did not accept it from them. Another interesting thing. The two luminaries of the two Gedolim of that century, they both passed. They agreed. Congress agreed. That's strange too. Okay, they both agreed on everything. They said, "Okay, we're going to pass it." And what do the people do? No, not interested. Not interested. Now we also have another rule in halacha. You can't pass something. You cannot enact something that people will not follow. Why? No. Besides, it's useless. No, it actually is worse than useless. It's taking your power away. Because if I make a rule and you decide, you the populace decide you don't want to follow it, well, what's going to be next? So I can never make a rule that the Kehila cannot uphold. That's my responsibility. The rabbinic responsibility. We have to enforce the rules of the Torah. If we're going to make a rule that is impossible to follow, again, the majority of people can't follow it. So when they break it, by the way, when I break a rule, what happens? I start saying, well, if I broke this, I'm going downhill. That is why when the rabbis were asked to come out against smoking, to declare smoking forbidden, the rabbis couldn't do it. Because they try to come up with a compromise. I think Rav Moshe's compromise was, if you're not yet smoking, you can't start. But if you're already hooked on it, you're hooked. Because he recognized that there was the nicotine fits and everything else. He had recognized that. But it's still, he couldn't make a decree that everybody stopped, because when they wouldn't stop, so now you're taking away the power that you have. And again, making people sinners. You don't want make people sinners, So you don't enact a rule unless everybody can follow it. And here you have, they didn't accept it. So what happens? Aviatu Talmideu, now subsequently, their disciples came and decreed it again on that very day of the 18 enactments. This would be the 12th. Fine. And this time the populace did accept it from them. So the question would be, why did they not accept it on the first time? Why did they accept it on the second time? It could be that people were just, by the way, if I want to just look at this simply, in the beginning when they decreed it, since Hillel wasn't really that pro-it anyway, and they knew what he had held originally, it could be that they said he was forced into it. Really, if he was in power, he would not have allowed this to happen. So what do we care about Shammai? Shammai is a wonderful guy. He's very tough. He's a very big scholar, and so on and so forth. But he's not. He doesn't work for us. That kind of sort of thing. And the people may have just said so, or they would have said, "We've been doing this all the time. Our grandparents did this. Why should we do? Why should we be different? Why should we be different?" By the way, that's what happens too. When we start making rules that, and let me see, what's the best rule I can look at? Women and men coming to shalosh shudas. Okay. If you go into a place like HOC, the women never sit with the men. Mm-hmm. They don't sit anywhere near the men. They don't even come to the shalosh shudas. In the old days, long before any of us were born, in Breuers, the men and women used to come to shalosh shudas. That would be a way to meet people. It was social interaction. That would help for shidduchim and so on and so forth, but that was done. Now that was a long time ago. A long time ago, people used to shake hands. Men and women used to shake hands. That's a normal thing. Then it became, no, women, you're not allowed to touch a woman. That was just going really back. Instead of going forward, it was going back. There was weaknesses throughout the time of halachic observance. And sometimes we enforced it, sometimes we didn't. Women wearing head coverings. That went into disuse when, before the Holocaust, it was already in disuse amongst some of the people. If you look at the pictures, you will see some of the Rebbitzins with their heads uncovered. And so again, what happened, that they stopped wearing it, the Aruch HaShulchan yells and says it's horrible what's happening. Nonetheless, what we can do, we have to cry. Okay, that's his response to it. And now, of course, if a frum woman is walking around, she always has her head covered. So we go through these periods. And if the rabbis would have suddenly declared, if you have if your hair is uncovered, then we're going to follow the halacha. You can't say Shema, you can't do this, you can't do that. We would have ended off Torah study. It would have been the end of it. You couldn't do anything. So that's why they had to make leniencies for this. Again, halachically, you see it going back and forth, but that's what's going on here. Sometimes the people accept it, and then other times, when they're ready for it, they'll accept it. Otherwise, they don't. They're not ready for it, and they can't accept it. And that was an example of Shammai, when Shammai and Hillel, again, the two founders of the schools, couldn't get it done, yet the students did, because the students were already ready, seemingly, they were already ready for that sort of thing. Okay, we'll stop here.